depending upon what type of church you go to, you may be used to seeing a cross, you may be used to seeing maybe saints, images along those lines. And these debates of if these are appropriate or not, if they're idol worship, go back really deep into the Christian church. So today we'll be talking about the iconoclastic controversies. We'll be defining icons and talking about eventually how it causes the first schism or major split within the Christian church. So let's define what an icon is. Typically what an icon is, it's on a piece of wood. It was used during the Byzantine period, and it basically shows, like as pictured right here, it shows Jesus, Mary, a saint, somebody that's a big Christian idol, and it shows them in a church, traditional pose. You might see like a halo, something like that. Page 226 in your text actually does a great job going and describing how to go and what it was like to go for an icon. The idea of an icon, if you're going to use it in your church, it is to help you go and basically worship God. How to go and pay your respect to God in church, and maybe going and looking up into the eyes of Jesus can help you contemplate or concentrate during your prayer, something along those lines. Some different churches will go and say that this isn't a good thing, which is going to be the source of the schism. Now, Emperor Leo III, so he's the emperor of the Byzantine Empire. We're talking about the Byzantines. He goes and sees these icons as bad, and he wants to get rid of these, what he calls graven images, including at one time a volcano explodes, and he interprets as God is displeased with the icon. And on the famous gate to the Palace of Chalky Gate, he removes the image of Christ, a very, very famous picture. And what does that cause? It causes a bunch of people to go and riot. And iconoclasm, the word iconoclasm, refers to the destruction of icons, meaning the icons went and were actually destroyed as a result of Emperor Leo III. This goes back to the old theological debate, right? How do we go? In the Old Testament, it says, you shouldn't worship idols, right? That's one of the 10 Commandments. Going and not having these idols or putting anything else besides in front of God. But then the distinction is, it becomes a bit hard for some people because Jesus was a person, right? He was both human and God at the same time. So is it appropriate, if we now know who essentially what God looks like, is it appropriate to have him or others as well? And the East and West are going to basically go and interpret this differently. Leo obviously going and representing the East. Now, despite the fact the East and West go and they fight, they both basically, the leaders of both churches excommunicate each other, thinking about the East having its the capital church being in Constantinople, the West being in Rome. And icons are allowed back in the Byzantine Empire with restrictions. Some of the restrictions is they're painted flat. You can't have a statue. They're basically meaning you can have the icon, but they can't look too realistic, if you know what I mean, because then at that point it becomes an idol. And the concept is it's a window into heaven. It's going and it's showing something that does not look like this world at all and will help you in worship. But the main point here is the damage is done between these two different sides. What I mean is that the East and West, both members had basically excommunicated each other. There was a long period where they basically weren't talking. And when the East goes and reintroduces icons, the damage is done. Now, this is a big date and a big event that you need to know. Something what is referred to as the Great Schism in 1054. At this point, like I said, both members excommunicate each other. They basically kick each other out of the church. And we divide into the two parts. There's the East Church and the West Church. Up until this time, we've kind of thought about the church on a linear fashion. And, the church is going along. But in 1054, once we hit that, we're going to go, we'll call this the Catholic side right there on the west or the left. And then the Orthodox side. The Catholic Church will continue, if you know your history. The church will continue. But when we get to a topic later on in the semester, you're going to know that the Protestant branch will come out of there. So kind of the way to think, these are the three branches of Christianity. Catholicism, Protestantism, and the Orthodox. In the Latin Church or the Western Church, they speak Latin, and they're called the Catholic Church. And in the East, they speak the language Greek, and they're called the Orthodox. You may have heard of like the Greek Orthodox Church. That's where it comes from, right? Greece is in the eastern region of that area when we're talking about it being split. Some other differences. In the Byzantine Church, priests could marry. That wasn't in the Catholic Church. And in the Byzantine Church, they use leavened bread, while the Latin Church use unleavened bread when they're going and doing the Eucharist. The idea here, theologically, when we're talking about, what is appropriate or not, is there's a distinction. There's a difference made between these two things. You can go and respect something, use it in terms of worship, what we would call veneration or reverence right here. That's good, versus adoration. And adoration is the idea that you're going and adoring the object for itself. So it's called proskynesis is the good one, or latria is the bad one. So hopefully that explains what an icon is, how they got destroyed, how they got brought back. Damage is done, however, and the split in 1054 splits into the two different churches, the Western Catholic Church and the Eastern Orthodox Church.